Hey everybody! So today is Sunday, which for a lot of people means that they don't change out of their pajamas and they stay at home and relax. And for the other half of people, it's the day that you run around and get everything done that you didn't get done during the rest of the week. A lot of the time, Sunday is the day we do things at home because it's the day where the stores are either closed or they have the shortest hours. So today we're going to talk about cleaning your house, and specifically we're going to talk about things in your house you should be cleaning or looking at that could be making you sick or could be having a negative effect on your chronic or invisible illness. And a lot of these tips are actually good for anyone, even if you have a house with no one with an illness or if you have a house with people with a lot of illness. It's general health things that you should be looking for. So the very first thing we want to talk about is mold. Now, we all know to look for black mold. We check for black mold in our showers and in our bathtubs, but we don't necessarily think to look for it in other places. So you should be looking for black mold in your shower area, around the base of your tub, anywhere where there's grout and tile, anywhere that's damp really. So underneath sinks, look around near the pipes, look in the corners of the cabinets underneath the sinks. Once a month you should just shine a flashlight in there and just double check that there's no mold, black or otherwise, that's growing. And we should also check our windows and door frames, the sliding glass doors. A lot of time we see dark there and we think that it's just dirt, and it's not necessarily just black mold we need to be checking for, but mold in general. It's something that we don't think to clean all the time. If we have a decorative windowsill, we usually wipe them down, but we don't think to clean in between the window panes and in between the screens. So that's a really important place that we need to be regularly cleaning and checking for mold. And also in corners of rooms, if you have anywhere where baseboards or anything don't match, especially in places like the bathroom because of the dampness in the air. Now, it can be really hard to clean things like in between the panes or baseboards. One of our tips for cleaning that is to use toothbrushes. In my house, once someone is done with their toothbrush and it's time to get a new one, the old one goes into the cleaning bucket so that it can be used for cleaning, and then when it's really destroyed, it goes in the garbage. That's just a way to add in a bit of recycling into your house. I know that there are another tip is if you have a cloth, if you use a butter knife, you can use that to get into the edges. And a lot of the time, actually using the handle part of the butter knife is thicker as opposed to the really sharp point of the knife. So that's a way, if you, for example, use the bamboo brushes that are you just replace the heads on, and so you're not going to be throwing them out. That's a really good way that you can clean up the mold. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about when we're talking about cleaning mold is what you do with the toothbrushes and the rags and the paper towels and everything when you're done. One of the important things to think about is that if you don't clean those properly and you've just put black mold or toxic mold on them and you're not cleaning them right, you're kind of rinsing them out and putting them back in your cleaning bucket, the mold is going to stay there and you're going to spread it later, and you're not going to be cleaning later, you're going to be spreading mold. Alternatives to that are things like Norwex, which did not endorse us to say this, but they have a microfiber, they have silver in there, which is an antibacterial. There are other brands that have things like that. Look around and ask around, and you can read studies on whether or not it actually does increase the antibacterial effect or whether or not the company is just BSing you. Make sure that if you're running dirty rags through the washer, that you don't run your cleaning rags with your other stuff. Put them on their own load. In some cases, some people like to run a blank load afterwards, especially if you've been cleaning black mold. If you're cleaning a really toxic mold and you know you're cleaning a toxic mold, I always suggest that you get rid of things, but that's not exactly environmentally friendly, and it's not financially friendly either. So the important thing is to make sure that you're actually cleaning and sanitizing your cleaning rags and the toothbrushes or whatever you use to cleaning your house. The same with your brooms and your vacuum head. People don't think to sanitize those, and that's important because if you do have picked up something that is bad, when you're cleaning later, you were just adding it back in. And we can't always see these things. So we want to check for other molds as well. One really important kind of mold that we don't always see is plain white mold. It's not necessarily toxic and can kill you right away, but if it builds up and you're breathing in it all the time, it's not going to be good for you. And a lot of the time, if you have a white ceiling or you have white walls, you don't always notice. You may notice when it starts to grow on an item. And if you do have items that are growing mold or they're getting like a white layer on them that's not dust, just scrub them down, sanitize them, use antibacterial, but do everything in the room and check your walls. When you wash your walls, paint should not come off unless your paint hasn't been sealed or it's a very, very bad paint job. So if you're using a colored rag or you use, a colored glove and you're washing them and you're wiping them and you're getting white powder that's coming off, or if you can look sideways at a wall and you have good sight and you can see that there's a white layer, that may be mold and you should scrub that all down. If you're worried about it, you can get experts in to test the mold to make sure that it's not toxic, but it's something that we don't always think to clean up. Sometimes we think that it may actually be plaster that's popping out, and sometimes it's not. It can actually be mold, especially if you're in your bathroom or in your laundry room or anywhere where there is a lot of water or where there could be a leak. So that's really important to try and determine whether or not it's mold or whether it is a plaster thing. And if you've recovered it and it keeps popping out and you can't figure out why the plaster keeps popping, you might want to check with someone who does mold, because it may actually be mold that's growing that looks like plaster. So we just mentioned leaks. Leaks is really important. Checking under your sinks for leaks, checking your washer area for leaks, checking your bathroom for leaks, anywhere where there is water pipes, because if they're leaking, it creates more moisture, and moisture breeds mold. And in some cases, it's not necessarily that the pipe is leaking underneath the sink, the pipe is leaking further back or it's leaking in the wall. So if you do have a mold problem, one of the things is, if you've had the mold cleaned and it keeps coming back, is to get someone to check for leaks. Really good things are dehumidifiers. So those are machines that you turn on and they pull the moisture from the air. A lot of people know about humidifiers that spray a steam into the air to add more moisture to the air, but you can get ones that do the opposite. I think there's some machines that do both, and you can set them on settings that they will say, this is how much moisture I want in this room. So once the humidity level goes too high, that's when they'll start pulling it out. So those are really, really good ways to deal with the mold. So another place we're checking for mold is our fridge. So we know that if food goes moldy in the fridge, that we take it out. But what a lot of people don't think to do, they're like, oh, I threw out the moldy food, it's okay. That it still could be in the air in your fridge, and it still could be in the spores. If you have deodorizing baking soda in your fridge and you've just pulled moldy food out, you should be replacing that as well, especially if it was significantly moldy, because that's still holding the mold. Whether it releases it a lot or not, it's still a better idea to replace it. And you should also, like I said, pull everything out, clean the whole fridge, and clean your freezer. A lot of fridges and freezers, there's a very small vent in between them because they share the cold air. And we don't realize that if something's gone moldy in our fridge, that it could be molding in our freezer. And so that can feed back down into our fridge later. So clean out your fridge, and you should do that regularly. A couple times a year, some people do it once a month or once a week, it's up to you. But as soon as you see something moldy in the fridge, you should pull it out and clean the fridge out. A good practice is to, every week on garbage day when you're going to take the garbage out, is to check to make sure that there is no moldy food anywhere in the fridge, even in jars. People are like, oh, I missed that jar of salsa, and you have it for months and you never open it, so you don't know it's moldy. You should check them every so often. And so another place you need to be checking is your cupboards. So a lot of the time food goes bad and we are eating food that's gone bad. Now, there's a difference between best before and expiry date, and sometimes the expiry dates are not dictated by when the food is instantly bad, like it's instantly bad on the 4th of September when it says it's done. That's the minimum or maximum that that industry can guarantee you, like with eggs or milk, and it so that they're not legally liable. So in some cases, you can find that food, you can still eat it. For example, you have milk that expired 2 days ago, and you bought it in the quart bags, but you didn't open it. So you've just opened it now, and it's perfectly fine. It smells fine, tastes fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And that's not the same as food that's gone bad. You can also end up having food that the expiry date is not for 3 more weeks, but it's gone bad. And when that happens, it's because, for example, with soy milk, it has a much longer shelf life than cow's milk, but it can go bad once you've opened it because you've exposed it to the elements. So that expiry date that they put on is actually sometimes if you open it before then, it should still be good. But if you've opened it and it's still before the expiry date, a lot of companies can't guarantee that the food is still good. Now, the problem when we get into our cupboard food and our dried goods is that we can't always smell or taste that it's bad until we've fully eaten it. And the problem is a lot of time, like with pasta, we're putting it with something else, so we have no idea that it's gone bad. Keep track, even if you put masking tape and a label on this is when I put this in here. Try not to mix new ones with old ones because you could then have food that is much older than you think mixed in with the newer food. And so keep track. If you find that, the last 2 times we cooked rice in our house, we all kind of felt sick, or you felt a little, or you got full-blown sick, but then you ate rice somewhere else or ate a similar dish, so you know it's not that. Or if the 2 different times the only thing that was similar was the pasta or the rice, you might need to get rid of it. A bug may have gotten into it. If you buy in bulk, which is really, really great, and it's so economical and so much better for the environment than the multi-packaged food, but the problem is sometimes something's got into it. And sometimes it's gotten into it once you brought it home. So you had it open and a bug flew in when you weren't looking. So just double check your expiry dates and keep track of when your food was actually opened and when you started eating it. So one of the other things we want to talk about is your water. So water is really great, and we've talked before, you can see our blog posts about how you should drink water every day because it's so good for you and have such a great benefit. But sometimes you might find that every time you drink the water, you feel worse. And that may be that your water is bad or that your water just isn't meant for your system. So in some cases, if you have a fridge filtration system, mold has gotten in. So when you clean, you should clean them, and you should follow the directions from the manufacturer on how to clean them. And in some cases, we don't replace our filters quick enough. Now, your filter may last for 6 months or for 4 months, but especially if you've had something in your fridge go moldy, then that's going to put more strain on your filter because it's getting into the air in there, and so you may have to replace it sooner. And some other things are that it might just be the component in the filter. So it might be a component in your tap water, it might be a component in the filter, fluoride or carbon or something. Your body may just not be able to handle it. And not every city has the same levels as those. And it could be that your local water source has had too much things ended up in it. For example, I'm told that antibiotics, once they've gone through our body and they go back into the water, they don't necessarily get filtered out as much as they should when they're coming back in because there's not a really great way to filter them. Now, that's hearsay, and I can't tell you that that's 100% true. So an important thing is to try, some people think bottled water. Be careful with bottled water because sometimes it says all natural spring water, but doesn't necessarily mean that it was filtered or that it was filtered the same way. And because of groundwater, that can actually be contaminated water, and you may not know. And it's also bad for the environment to use those plastic water bottles, and you go through 4 a day. Good thing to do is to get a large one, a you know, a cooler. There we go. There's the word. The ones that go in the cooler, whether you actually put it on a cooler or not, you can actually get pumps that'll go into the top and you can pump the water out. And those are really cool. They're really great if you go camping. And you can refill those big jugs with water from the store. You can get reverse osmosis water. And it's really great. And it's a lot better than buying bottled water. And in some cases, you just need to change your water filtration system in your fridge because there may be a mineral that actually doesn't agree with you or maybe doesn't agree with your medication. And you may not realize that that's happening, especially if you started a new medication or you've changed something else in your life or in your health care, you've moved to a new house, and we don't always realize. And so sometimes you need to get your water tank checked and make sure that there's nothing growing in the tank if everybody in your house is getting sick from it. And another thing is when we talked about leaks, if you have places where it's leaking and air is getting in and you have mold on the outside, chances are you may have mold in the pipes, and then that's coming out. An important thing to do is, clean your faucets. We don't always think to clean our faucets, but that's something that we should do a lot of the time. So that's all the stuff we want you to check for. We want you to check for mold, check your water. You can get your water tested. In some places, the city will test your water for free, and in some places they don't. And in some places, you should check if you have a rental, because in some places your landlord needs to check that, and if they haven't checked that, and if you've lived there for 2 or 3 years and you know how often they've come to check the water, a lot of the time they may sneak in and check water coming from a hose pipe if it comes from the same place. But sometimes, again, you can find a way to get it covered for free, or it might even be worth the investment. Like I said, if everyone in your family is getting sick from the water and your neighbors aren't, it might be something in your water tank. So check your water, check expiry dates, watch your bulk items, watch the items that you put into your Tupperware, your plastic containers. I know I love to do that, and I always forget to say, oh wait, this much is in there, but that's from, the pasta I bought 2 months ago. I need to finish this before I put the pasta I bought today in. And the last thing that we want to talk to you about, or that I want to talk to you about, is cleaners. We think, I'm going to clean the house, I'm going to clean the house, I'm going to clean the house, it's going to make me feel so much better. There's going to be no dust, there's going to be no mold, there's going to be nothing. We still feel sick, and we feel sick cleaning. And that can come from the cleaners. A lot of cleaners actually have elements that can make you sicker. Now, in some cases, it doesn't bother you, and for some people, that's what they need to clean their house with. And it's something that you can test and you can try out and see. A lot of times people don't know that they're allergic to a cleaner. A lot of people can be allergic to ammonia, and they don't know they're allergic to ammonia. And the same with gloves, the powder in a lot of cleaning gloves. If you're buying gloves with powder and you get red or anything from cleaning, try ones without powder, because you could be allergic to it. And try gloves that are made from latex or ones that are made from rubber. And you might have to pay more money, but you may have an allergy you don't know about. So when it comes to cleaning, there are a lot of different natural ways to clean. I think we might have said when we were talking about proper cleaning rags and sanitizing them, things like Norwex that have a antibacterial built into them. But there are other things, tea tree oil, in some cases lemon, if you mix it with the right thing, vinegar, baking soda, all of that can be mixed to clean. You can buy prepackaged green cleaning packages that are less harsh and they don't have as much chemical in them. And there's lots of ways to make them yourself. Now, obviously, like everything else, you need to check more than one spot. You need to check and see if other people are saying this works. And a lot of the time you can actually find studies that say, yes, if you clean with this, this is how much more bacteria you get taken off. So it's important to note that in some cases, maybe you're taking one of those Insta wipes that's got cleaner on it and you're wiping your counter off. In some cases, you may be exposing yourself to something, or and then you put food right on it. You may be allergic to that. That may not agree with your body. Another important thing with those is a lot of time they are safe to use on your counter and put your food right on, but you need to wait for it to dry, because otherwise you're putting you're getting wet chemical directly on your food. So one of the things that you should always check is to check your cleaners and try some other cleaners. Again, look at your drugs you're taking and look at your medications and see if there are certain things that clash with them. Look on forums and talk to other people with your illness and say, you know, I've got this rash that looks like this. And someone could say, oh, you know, that was from laundry soap. And 2 or 3 people say, that's the laundry soap. And laundry soap is another thing that you can get in a more natural form, fragrance-free, and that there are natural ways to make. You can make your own laundry soap. And in some cases, it's the cleaner, you know, they stopped having this cleaner in their house. And one of their strange symptoms that the doctor said, well, that's not actually because of your illness, went away. And it's because of how that particular item interacts with people, with your genetic makeup and your medication and your illness. And sometimes it needs that combination. So 10 people have the same illness and 3 of them have the same symptom, and it's because of a cleaner. And because these 7 other people don't have it, it's assumed that it's something else. But it could be just they all have the same lifestyle and they all have the same for example, racial background, or they're the same gender, and that's where it comes up. So I hope that you guys are learning lots of stuff from us and that some of this actually helps you in cleaning with your house. I haven't decided today whether I'm going to go clean or whether I'm going to go back to bed. But as you can see, I decided not to put on makeup and not to try and look pretty. I do try and look pretty for you, but today is Sunday, which means it's the day where we don't have to do anything, or like I said, where you may have to clean. So if you enjoyed this blog post and you don't know anything about us, or you are just following us on YouTube and you haven't tried out our website, you should check out our website. It's www.lifewithillness.com. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/lifewithillness, and it's the same on Twitter. So I hope that everyone learned a lot of things, and you can check out our other videos and upcoming videos. If there's something specific that you want to hear about, send us a message or an email on our website. Okay? Everyone have a great day. Bye.